Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Beyond the Whistle, Season 3, Episode 5. Today, we're going to be talking about the NFL Draft, breaking down what happened this past weekend. So, as we all know, the NFL Draft took place in Detroit over the weekend, started on Friday, or Thursday, concluded on Saturday. Very interesting. Had a lot of fans out there in Detroit checking that out live. And, let's get right into it. And so I say, let's all introduce ourselves first. I'm Rob Frangione. I'll be hosting today. Alongside me, Henry Lapin, Will Sexton, and Ryan Bell. Say hi, fellas.
Hey, how you doing?
Hey, how you doing?
What's going on, everyone?
So without further ado, let's get into the top 10 picks. And so how this is going to work, I'm going to name the player, and we're going to go around in a circle, kind of giving our thoughts about that. Only one person's going to give their thoughts per one pick. So I'll start off. Henry will start off, actually. So Caleb Williams, first overall to the Bears. How we feeling, Henry?
It was the only pick they should have made. They couldn't have gone too fancy. They didn't want to mess anything up for the future of their team. Caleb Williams was the only pick that they should have made, and it's a home run. The only way they mess Caleb Williams up is if they develop him bad. Caleb Williams has all the talent to be the best quarterback in the league in only a few years.
Yeah, knowing the Bears, who knows if they're going to actually end up developing him well, see if they have another Mitch Trubisky incident. Ryan, can you talk about Jaden Daniels for us?
Yeah, I think for Washington, Jaden Daniels, that was the clear pick. I know that there was some kind of conversation about Drake May, but I think Washington, once they had their interviews with Jaden Daniels, they knew that he was the guy, and I think he's the guy as well. Only player in FBS history in college football, 12,000 yards passing, 3,000 yards rushing. He can do it all. I know there's the concerns. We saw also the pictures of his elbow, which are pretty weird, but that's kind of a different issue. But I think he'll be a good quarterback in Washington. I wouldn't be surprised if in a few years this could be a contending team in the NFC.
Yeah, we'll move on to Drake May.
Yeah, Drake May. Yeah, Drake May. The first four were just honestly just pretty predictable. Drake May, the Patriots really needed a quarterback or maybe even a wide receiver, but I think he's going to be a really good fit in New England.
Moving on to the Cardinals with Marvin Harrison Jr. Obviously, you don't need your quarterback for a little while. You just signed Murray a couple of years ago, or was that 2 years ago, to a big deal. A lot of money given there, so you're not going quarterback, obviously. That leaves Marvin Harrison, who, other than Caleb Williams, is the clear-cut number one prospect in the NFL draft this year. He's been trained basically since birth by his father to be, a superstar wide receiver. And, you couldn't really go wrong. He's got everything. It really comes full package wide receiver deal. Moving on to the Chargers. Henry, can you talk about Joe Alt?
Joe Alt, by far the best offensive lineman in this class. I think it was best available player for the Chargers. I know a lot of people were expecting Malik Neighbors or maybe Rome Odunze, another receiver, but I think they made the right pick. Your quarterback doesn't have anyone to throw to, but if they get sacked every play, that's a bigger issue. I think they do have very little talent at receiver right now with Quentin Johnston, but I think the pick in Ladd McConkey, I think that makes up for the Joe Alt pick. I think it was a very solid pick by the Chargers there.
Yeah, I was wondering if they'd go the Bengals 2021 route and take a receiver before Penei Sewell. We went with Jamar Chase. I was hoping they took Bowers, but it was definitely an interesting pick there. But I think looking back, I think it was the right one to make. Bell, can you talk about Malik Neighbors?
So my bad, French. But Malik Neighbors is kind of the next best receiver after Marvin Harrison. I know a lot of Giants fans were happy. There was the conversation that maybe they would exercise a trade into that top three and get the replacement for Daniel Jones, but that didn't happen. I know, Lapin, you're a Giants fan, obviously, but I think most Giants fans are content with this pick. Another LSU receiver making his way to the Big Apple. Obviously, Odell kind of being that last big guy, but Malik Neighbors will kind of fit that role in New York. I think he's the all-time leader in both receptions and receiving yards at LSU against that SEC talent, so he'll fit perfectly right into the NFL.
Yeah. Moving on to the 7th overall pick from the Titans. Sexton, can you talk about J.C. Latham?
Yeah, he's a great offensive tackle, great at pass blocking. It draws some mixed reviews within Titans fans, whether they should be taking a offensive lineman or not. But I think it was a very solid pick for them, and I think he'll do really well in Tennessee.
Yeah, definitely, especially with a lot of replacing that O-line with Chris Carranci next year. I think this line could develop it to be really nice. Moving on to probably the most interesting pick of the entire draft, Falcons took Michael Penix Jr. out of Washington. And, as a college player, he was a stud. Dead shot accuracy for most of the season. We're not going to talk about that college football championship against my Michigan Wolverines where he couldn't hit anything. But What I do like about him is that he is one of those pocket passers, not really going to put his body on the line, especially considering he's had 2 ACL tears at this point in his career, messed up his shoulder. So, his longevity, I think, would be solid. Only problem is the fact that he's 23 years old, and by the time that Kirk Cousins is done, he might be 26, 27 years old, which you guess is their prime. But, I mean, come on. It's sitting behind an aging Kirk Cousins. He's not going to have the Jordan Love effect like that. Moving on to the 9th pick, Romo Dunze. Henry, can you talk about him?
I love this pick for the Bears. Everyone pre-draft saw Caleb Williams and Romo Dunze hanging out. They were hanging out in Detroit together. And I think that this was a perfect pick for Caleb Williams. He comes into the new system, Romo Dunze as well. They're going to be learned together, and I think we're going to see this connection for the next 15 years. I think Romo Dunze has a lot to learn, sitting behind DJ Moore and Keenan Allen, but Keenan Allen, he's old, he's hurt a lot. I think Romo Dunze is going to have a great career with Caleb Williams.
Absolutely. And let's finish off with Bell talking about my J.J. McCarthy. Love this dude. I've been watching him for about 2.5 years at this point. Please say some nice stuff about him right here.
Yeah, well, I'll try my best. So the Vikings obviously making that trade with the Jets, just moving up one spot. And it seemed like that was kind of who the Vikings were targeting kind of this whole draft season. 27-1 as a starter at Michigan. Franz, there you go. I'll give you a little shout out right there for the Wolverines. But J.J. McCarthy, I mean, that system in Michigan, he fit that so perfectly, and I think that can translate easily to the NFL. Obviously, he's a playmaker, run out of the pocket. You got guys, Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, TJ Hawkinson, just surrounding him with that presence, but also now Vikings acquired Sam Darnold in the offseason to back him up, so obviously he's going to want to have that starting job. Hopefully he doesn't get any mono from Sam Darnold, but besides that, I think J.J. McCarthy will fit that Minnesota real well.
Yeah, all right. So that's top 10 picks right there. So now let's move on to the rest of the first round. Some surprising picks, who fell, who rose. I mean, just generally, what were you surprised by? What did you like and all that? Sexton, you can start because you got cut off with that last one.
Oh, yeah. So, my Lions, I loved the Detroit Lions. My parents were from Michigan originally, but I think Terrion Arnold was a very surprising pick for Detroit Lions fans. I thought they were going to take like Kool-Aid McKinstry or that one cornerback from Penn State. But I did not expect them to trade with Dallas to go all the way up and take Terrion Arnold. Packers could have taken Terrion Arnold to cornerback or obviously what they took now. But I think it was a very surprising pick, but a good one. But it just caught us Lions fans by surprise. So.
Yeah, I'll pick this stuff up here. I got to say, I was kind of surprised that Brock Bowers, especially with a talent of his level, fell out of the top 10. And to the Raiders, who took Michael Mayer last year, who was, obviously the clear-cut tight end, or maybe Dalton Kincaid last year. But they already took a very solid tight end last year. A pick that I actually really liked was the Panthers taking Xavier Legette with the 32nd overall pick, last pick in the first round. So that will pair him up with Deontay Johnson and Adam Thielen. And, they just got Deontay Johnson. Not sure how great he's going to be. Adam Thielen, who is getting pretty old there now. But I think that he's going to be a solid big body receiver pick. And then one more pick real quickly before I sign off real quick. Jacksonville Jaguars taking Brian Thomas out of LSU. And I was a little curious to see where they'd go because, as far as receivers, yes, they lost Calvin Ridley, but they got Gabe Davis alongside Christian Kirk, who they've already had. So I wasn't sure if they were going to go with the receiver, but obviously they get a great prospect, kind of overshadowed by his teammate at LSU, Malik Neighbors, but still he's going to have a lot of production, good production for them.
So my surprising pick in the first round was Jordan Morgan. He out of Arizona went to the Green Bay Packers. He's a pass protecting first offensive lineman. That run blocking is still developing, and with the loss of David Bakhtiari, the projected loss of David Bakhtiari for the Packers, I think it was a surprising pick. I think guys like Kool-Aid McKinstry, Cooper DeJean, they were the favorites to get picked there. But a lot of Packers fans are extremely upset by this pick. I don't think you should be. He's developmental. We know that all O-linemen will struggle in their first 2 or 3 years in the NFL before they fully develop. But I think it was a surprising pick. And for someone who fell, this guy fell completely out of the first round. It's A.D. Mitchell, the wide receiver. He ended up going somewhere in the 50s to the Colts. We heard that it was character and physical concerns for A.D. Mitchell falling that far, completely out of the first round. I had him higher than guys like Ricky Pearsall, Xavier Worthy, Ladd McConkey, who all were start of the second, end of the first round picks. So I think that's extremely surprising. Colts get a stud there. Anthony Richardson to throw to this year. So I think Colts could definitely be a scary team this year with the new addition.
Yeah, so I know we have a segment coming up about quarterbacks, but I'll just briefly touch, as a Broncos fan myself, Bo Nix in that 12 spot. At first, I was a little skeptical to it. Brock Bowers is still on the board, and I definitely, wouldn't mind having him. But I think Bo Nix kind of fits our offense so well, and Sean Payton said after that, we had calls with Bo Nix, and, we gave him the playbook, and he kind of perfected that really easily. So I'm excited to see him happen. I mean, he's been in college since 2019, started at Auburn, and now when he transferred to Oregon, now, going to the NFL for the Broncos, fits the Sean Payton offense well, that West Coast kind of short passes. So I'm excited about that, and I'll get a little more in depth as we get to the quarterbacks. I also love Lapin, you mentioned A.D. Mitchell, but I'm talking about Laiatu Latu for Indianapolis with that 15th pick, the first defensive player off the board. When do we see a defensive player first pick being 15th? I love that spot for Indianapolis. There were some medical concerns with him. I think he had to take off almost 2 years due to his injuries, but in Indianapolis, he's going to fit that role so well, and I think if we're going to have our also picks about defensive rookie of the year, it could be him later on.
Yeah, Bo Nix, he had the most starts in college football history, right? Didn't he just pass that? Yeah, that's right, in Oregon. So no question of experience there. And good segue. We can get into quarterbacks now. So we'll talk about each quarterback's landing spot. So you had, 6 go in the first round? Obviously, Caleb Williams, Jaden Daniels, Drake May, to my Patriots, J.J. McCarthy, Michael Penix, and Bo Nix. And then obviously you had more outside, like Spencer Rattler and all those guys.
Michael Pratt.
Can't forget Michael Pratt. What a guy. But you had all sorts of different guys going places. Who do we think is most likely to succeed, going to fail, going to take a couple of years to get ready? Henry, why don't you start us off?
I mean, Caleb Williams, most likely to succeed by far. I don't think maybe in the history of the NFL we have seen a better team to pick first overall and select a quarterback. There is not a better situation a rookie quarterback could be going into right now. You are in a pretty good division, I'll say that, but the team around you, the wide receivers, the running back options, you have no reason to not succeed there. The expectations have been climbing, especially with the failure of Justin Fields. Maybe that was his fault, maybe it wasn't, but the team that Justin Fields has, the team that Caleb Williams has, are night and day. Caleb Williams will succeed in Chicago unless they mess him up.
Bill, you want to get this one going?
Yeah, I'm excited to see Drake May in New England. I think that could be kind of up in the air. Is he going to succeed? Is he not? I think some of the things he did in college are not going to convert to the NFL because you see him plays, at North Carolina. He's running out of the pocket, throwing lefty almost, with these crazy throws. Obviously, that's not going to convert to the NFL, but you can't deny the guy's talent, right? 6'4", 223 pounds. He's a big dude and big quarterback. I think some of the throws he makes, obviously, he has some good throws in there, but he's just going to kind of get out of that mindset of maybe forcing those tough throws because in the NFL, those defensive backs, the safeties, they're going to shut him down all day.
I'll pick this one up right here. I'll start with the guy I'm worried for, Jaden Daniels. I mean, he's kind of coming into a pretty shaky situation. Brand new head coach, traded away one of your targets and Curtis Samuel to the Bills. So I wouldn't expect a whole lot out of him in year one. I will say that I'm excited to see Drake May. Fresh new quarterback talent since Mac Jones. Haven't really had that in a while. Not feeling good about the situation he's being thrust into, though. Like I said, new head coach there. No receivers whatsoever. But like Henry said, clear-cut option for most likely to succeed, Caleb Williams. I mean, you've got just a dominant wide receiver core. Just drafted Rome Odunze, Keenan Allen, DJ Moore. No shortage of targets there. Only question is, will the defense be able to carry him? Will they be able to service him? I think that they will be able to get the job done for the most part. I wouldn't be surprised if we see like a 6th or 7th seed in the playoffs out of the Bears this year. And Sexton.
Yeah. So I think J.J. McCarthy is going to be a great quarterback for the Vikings with that Justin Jefferson and J.J. McCarthy duo now. I think they can make some great work in the NFC North and, blow it out of the park.
Pains you to say as a Lions fan, doesn't it?
Yeah, I know. I mean, they're gonna be a tough one. Who was the old Vikings quarterback? Nick Mullins, was it?
Josh Dobbs.
Josh Dobbs. Yeah, I mean, they've had so
Kirk
many.
Cousins
Kirk Cousins. They've had so many quarterbacks, so it's just, I don't know. I think this is gonna be the one. I think they're gonna have a pretty good season.
McCarthy, I wouldn't expect anything great out of them this year. He's obviously best receiver in the league. Justin Jefferson, that's up for debate, I guess. But outside of that, it's
maybe offensive wise.
Outside of that, they've still got some work to do. That defense still needs a lot of work to be done on it. So now let's move on to who we thought had the best draft as a whole. I mean, a lot of teams had some great draft. A lot of teams, namely the Texans, maybe even the Cowboys, didn't really do as well. Henry, what do you think? Who, who, in your opinion, had the best draft?
Pains me to say it as a Giants fan, but it was Philly. I mean, their only real hole on their team was their secondary. And you could argue that with their first 2 picks, they got the number 1 and number 2 defensive backs off the board. Quinyon Mitchell is an absolute demon in pass protection. He can press, he can play zone, he can do anything you want. Tackling will develop. He's 6 foot 195. The size is there. And Cooper DeJean, 6'1", 203 out of Iowa, he can do everything. You can even put him at receiver, and he will dominate. Even going down the board, you have Will Shipley, the running back out of Clemson. You have Jeremiah Trotter Jr., who will fill in for some of those older veterans at linebacker. He could start right away, as well as Johnny Wilson, one of my favorite wide receivers in the class. And, you know, big Wolverine guard, Trevor Keegan up the middle, 6'6", 320, 311. So all those old veterans, they're going to get replaced soon by all these young guys. And pains me to say, but Philly's going to be good for a long time.
Yeah, I'm going to pick up on that Philly one. Got a great pick out of running back Will Shipley. I mean, real gritty guy. Got a lot of great locker room dude from what I've heard.
Of course.
Yeah, Trevor Keegan, I'm going to talk about him. I mean, he was part of how many of those impeccable Michigan Wolverines lines in the past couple of years? He was just a huge piece for that team, those teams. Cooper DeJean, obviously, great dude. And I want to talk about the Chargers as well. I mean, you take Joe Alt, really address that. You're continuing to address that O-line, which has been shaky for the longest time. And then in the later rounds, I mean, you take Cornelius Johnson, one of the last picks in the draft out of Michigan. Great option. I don't think he'll get much playing time as of right now, but you never know with that not great receiving core. Brendan Rice, who you somehow get in the 7th round. Junior Colson, he was great at Michigan, real big piece of that defense. And then you had a third receiver. I mean, really the first receiver that they took. Lad McConkey. He can be. I think he's a slot guy.
Slot guy, yeah.
Yeah, a great blocker. I mean, Nick Saban thought really high of him, had really high opinions on him, giving him his props in his breakdown of it. And so I think the Chargers, they really addressed a lot of pieces, such as receivers, even though it didn't look like that in the first round, in the later rounds. So I think that they could really make some noise in the next couple of years, really start to build a solid team.
I can go. Yeah. So I think the Chicago Bears honestly had I mean, it's kind of a basic pick, but I think they had the overall the best draft pick. I mean, they got Caleb Williams, who's amazing, and I mean, I think they just really coordinated well with all the draft picks and what they need and what they don't. So, but I would also like to touch on my Lions. I think they had a really good draft pick with the loss of Cam Sutton to God knows what, jail or whatever, and then CJ Gardner-Johnson out of there. So they really responded to all of their missing defensive players, and now they have, I think, one of the best secondary squad in the NFL. But you never know. They could be a bust. Terran Arnold could be a bust. All they've drafted could be a bust, so.
All right, well, enough blabber about the Lions. I'm going to go back to what Henry was talking about. I'm going to stay in state with the Steelers. I think arguably maybe the best draft. I'd probably give them an A or even A+ grade. 20th pick, taking Troy Fautanu out of Washington, I think might have been the best pass blocking offensive tackle. Obviously playing at Washington, so much experience. One of the best. I'm not saying the best. Playing in the national championship, obviously, and protecting Michael Penix, just kind of adding to that experience he has. Zach Frazier in the 2nd round, 51st pick. And I just read here, four-time state high school wrestling champion. Wow. That's crazy, first of all. So that's kind of bolstering that lineup. Roman Wilson from Michigan. There you go, Franch.
Roman Wilson. Don't get me salivating over here. What a guy. Oh, my goodness.
Yeah.
That Alabama game. Whew.
Yeah, that Rose Bowl performance. That's just, by itself. But I think, obviously, playing under Jim Harbaugh and playing at Michigan, first of all, transition well. And I love Peyton Wilson. 3rd round, 97th pick out of NC State. Mm-hmm. I think he has the potential to be one of the great linebackers out of this draft. He's been dealing with some injuries the last couple of years, but Peyton Wilson absolutely could be one of those best defensive players. And then kind of rounding out with Mason McCormick, Logan Lee, Ryan Watts. Who knows how good these guys are going to be. But just in general, I think those first 4 picks they had are really going to be kind of solidifying the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Yeah. All right, let's move on to who we think could be busts. Obviously, I mean, it sucks, but there's going to be many busts each year. Let's really stick to the first round, maybe dip into the second round if you want to. Henry, you can start this one again.
Well, Bell, I'm going to save you here. I'm not going to say Bo Nix.
Thank you.
I'm going with the Ravens first round pick, Nate Wiggins.
Really? Huh.
Wow.
I think he's a guy who tested better than he should have. I think the combine, I think the pro days, I think they helped out his stock much more. I had him as a mid-second round player. I think the tackling, I think the weight, I think he's got a lot of physical traits that you don't really want out of a first round corner. I mean, of course, he's great in man pass protection or covering. I think we see in Sauce Gardner how it can work out when you're you're a small cornerback. You can't really tackle great, but I don't think he's anywhere close to Sauce Gardner. I think he'll have one of the worst rookie seasons we've seen from a cornerback in the first round. I don't think he'll develop. I think that he will be the bust in this class.
Yeah, it was the size that was an issue. Right?
Yeah, big issue.
Yeah, for me,
Issue.
I hate to say it, but I'm not feeling great about Drake May. Not because of him as a player, and I mean, obviously, yeah, there's the question of whether his college play style will translate into the NFL with him going out of the pocket so much. Like, is that going to work? I'm more worried about the situation that he's being thrust into. But I think if the Patriots can stick by him for a little while, build up around him, because they failed to do that around Mac Jones. It was just a complete and utter failure. They made no attempt to help Mac Jones out at all. But if they can learn from their mistakes as an organization and they can actually, get Drake May protection, get him receivers, all those weapons, and I mean, they're already getting a solid defense, then, maybe there'll be some hope for him. But if they're not able to do that, and I don't like what history's shown us, then I'm a little worried for Drake May.
Yeah. So I know I've been talking about a lot of Caleb Williams and the Bears, but I think it depends how Chicago, trains him and how if he gets tons of, I just think, I don't know, I think he might be a potential bust now that he has a lot of impressive skills, but I think if he can consistently perform at the professional level, I think maybe he could be a bust if he just can't hold that. I mean, we've seen Justin Fields was supposedly a top 10 NFL QB, and I think, I don't know, Chicago, man, it does stuff to quarterbacks, so I don't know.
Yeah, you know as a Lions fan. Bell, you?
Yeah, I'll round it out here. I think the 27th pick from Arizona, Darius Robinson, I think that was a little bit of a strange pick. He didn't run well for a defensive end. I'm reading right here, 4.95 in the 40. That's obviously not very good. Guy out of Missouri, and Missouri was a great team this year, out of the SEC, top 10 finish, but he would have been on the board in the second round, absolutely. So I think that was a little bit of a reach for the Cardinals. And I'm not, discrediting their draft at all. They obviously got guys that they needed, but I think that was a little bit of a reach. And also, obviously, the strange pick, I don't know how much of a bust he'll be because in the situation he could do good. Ricky Pearsall to San Francisco. Obviously, we know probably next year it could be Ayuk, Deebo Samuel. They might both be gone. Definitely one of them will be gone by next year. So Pearsall is going to have a big role, but the 31st pick, that kind of surprised almost everybody. He was a second-round guy. Mm-hmm. But, Kyle Shanahan, he liked what he saw, and I think almost anyone in that offense can perform, but I'm kind of excited to see how Pearsall performs.
All right, that's going to conclude the bust section right there. Let's move on to our last little segment right here, offensive rookie of the year and defensive rookie of the year predictions. Henry, you can start us off again for this last one.
Offensive rookie of the year, I'm going with 6th overall pick to the New York Giants, Malik Neighbors.
Just a little bit of bias there, huh?
All right, there.
A lot of bias there, but I think Malik Neighbors, he will be the only target for Daniel Jones, Drew Lock, Tommy DeVito, whoever starts at the Giants quarterback. He will be the number one option. And it's not like there's no other speed at the Giants receiving core. You have Wan'Dale Robinson, you have Darius Slayton, you have Jalen Hyatt. Darren Waller, if he decides to come back. So I think Malik Neighbors, they can't double team him pretty much any play he's got because Daniel Jones will have other options. But I'm expecting 1,200 yards at least and 6 or 7 touchdowns from Malik Neighbors. I think he's Offensive Rookie of the Year. Defensive Rookie of the Year, I love Latu Latu. I think he's the most NFL polished defensive player in this class. And I don't think he will be the best long term. I think Dallas Turner will. But Latu Latu, most NFL ready, most pro ready. He's going into a great system with a defensive minded head coach. And I think he'll be Defensive Rookie of the Year.
Yeah, for me, I've got a little bit of a I'm a little split down the middle here. I'm leaning more towards Marvin Harrison. I think. I mean, in similar situation to Malik Neighbors, really the only dude that Kyler's going to be thrown to. I mean, yeah, you got what was the tight end's name out of Colorado State?
Trey McBride.
Trey McBride. You got him. He really started to break into his own last year. But other than that, I mean, you got Michael Wilson. Let's see. Rondale Moore's gone. Marquise Brown is gone. You've got no one there. Mm-hmm. So Marvin Harrison is going to feast over there. I mean, yeah, Caleb Williams, obviously, he's in a good situation. And then there's you got Olu Fashanu out of Penn State to the Jets. I didn't mention that pick earlier, but I loved that pick, especially after Aaron Rodgers just got decimated in 4 snaps into his first play in the first game for the Jets. So I really think that that line definitely he could really start to be a solid cornerstone for those dudes. Mm-hmm. And yeah, maybe that will get recognized like the Jets have been getting recognized for their rookies in the past couple of years.
All right, I'll take this one. Offense rookie of the year. Absolutely no bias. It's Bo Nix. Guys, what are we doing here?
No bias.
No bias at all.
Totally, yeah.
He won't even start week
it's no
1.
bias at all. Well, Zach Wilson something might happen to him, and then it's going to be Bo Nix throwing to guys like Courtland. No, I'm kidding. I'm not going to pick Bo Nix, guys. It's going to be Caleb Williams. What are we doing here? If it's not Caleb Williams, I would be willing to throw down $100 right now. I'll split it. I will generously give $100 to everyone of Caleb
Shake
Williams.
my hand.
I don't know if this is on camera, but shake your hand.
I'll give me a handshake too.
Yeah. All right.
Get a handshake too. It's going to be Caleb Williams. I mean, it's just the mold for him is perfect in Chicago. We've been talking about his weapons all day. I mean, especially adding DeAndre Swift, also running back, another guy you can throw some more checkdowns to. But Caleb Williams, we already give him enough praise today, so I don't even really need to explain that too much. It's going to be Caleb Williams. Defense, we didn't give enough love, I think, to Dallas Turner. A lot of it was about Leatu Latu, and rightfully so. But I think Dallas Turner, a little bit of chip on his shoulder, right? 17th pick. A lot of times he's being mocked 8th to Atlanta. But Dallas Turner falling to 17th, he's got a little something to work for, but I think he can definitely perform in that situation for the Vikings.
Yeah, so for Offensive Rookie of the Year, like Rob said, Marvin Harrison Jr., I think, is going to be I think that was a great pick. He's a great route runner. I think he can beat most cornerbacks are going against one-on-ones like his father, who played in the NFL. And then for defense, going to be biased here. I think Terrion Arnold is going to be...
No, just
I think he's gonna be.
What team did Marvin Harrison play for? His dad, Marvin Harrison Jr.
Colts.
Okay, good.
Yeah, I know my stuff. I think Terrion Arnold is gonna be. I mean, he's gonna be going against. I think he's gonna be the starter, unless the guy from Buccaneers who came to the Lions. I forget his name. We'll come back to that. But
to the Lions.
Yeah, no, I mean, they got someone in free agency, but I think he's going to be a starter for the secondary squad. So yeah, I think he's going to be going up against guys like Puka Nacua, Justin Jefferson, and I think he's going to improve himself and maybe be the defensive rookie of the year. But
well, I'm just going to say, you mentioned Terrion Arnold. What about Quinyon Mitchell? You think he's got something to prove in Philadelphia, falling to 22?
Nope.
No, I think Terrion Arnold is going to be the.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, I just realized I never gave my defensive rookie of the year pick, so I was thinking I'm gonna go with what's his name? It was Byron Murphy out of Texas. I mean, that dude is just a freak of nature.
Horns up.
Yeah, no, orange down. No. Down? No, is this? What's that? Right?
Boomer Sooner.
Go Blue.
I have no affiliation with Oklahoma, by the way. No affiliation with Oklahoma.
Dude is just a athletic beast. Every analyst I've seen, even Saban, I mean, he was saying how much of a problem he was when they played him twice when he was there. And yeah, I just really think that he's going to really bring that out into the kind of deteriorating NFC West. But yeah, with that should do it for the 5th episode of this season 3 of Beyond the Whistle. Hope you guys have all a good day. Thank you from all 4 of us, and we'll see you next time.